Hi, I'm Dr. Carolyn Lincoln with Play to Behave, and today I'm going to help you make a decision between whether or not to get an invisible fence or to get a physical fence. An invisible fence is the type of fence where they put a wire underneath the ground and your dog wears a collar, and so when they get close to that fence it gives off a tone because there's a transmission between that wire and your dog's collar, and then if they get any closer to it then your dog will get a shock. So when you initially train your dog, you let them know that tone means a shock is coming. And so they won't want to go near the fence. So what's the problem? It's nice that, well, I'll just say the pros first. The pros to an invisible fence, and I'm not going to suggest that you get one because I don't care for them. I'm going to tell you why. But the pros to an invisible fence is that it's buried underground, and so it's not going to change your landscape at all. And typically it's less expensive. I would say they're helpful to some degree when you're selling your house because people like the idea of an invisible fence, and some dogs do really well in it. So there are some pros to having an invisible fence. If you have one though, landscapers for one reason have to know that it's there because oftentimes when they edge your beds they might cut through that wire, and if they do that, that signal's no longer going to go off. Your dog can figure it out and leave the yard. Okay, so that's just one of the cons. What other cons are there to having an invisible fence? Anything can come into your yard. It doesn't keep anything out, so therefore children can run through your yard, contractors can show up and go in your backyard, meter readers, other animals like skunks and opossums and so forth, other dogs can come into your yard, and that can be a problem for you. Secondly, some dogs don't care about the shock. If they want something bad enough, they will go through that fence. Now, you will be told that you can increase the voltage, and so it will be more painful, so your dog will be less likely to go through it. But there isn't any level of shock that will keep some dogs inside. They just don't care, and they're going to go across it. So you won't know that until you have the fence there and something's on the other side that's really, really appealing, like a deer or something of that sort. And again, those animals won't be kept out of your yard. So a deer could be in your yard, your dog can start chasing that deer, and as the deer goes over the fence, your dog does too. So even if they don't want to go through a fence, they might forget in the moment and go through it. Some dogs become so fearful, and this is another reason I don't care for them, that they'll become fearful of other things as well. Some dogs will just go outside and they don't even want to move because they're afraid of that fence. Some will go out there and because they're afraid of the fence, they become afraid of other things, such as maybe you put a pool of water outside for your dog to play in. They will no longer play. They won't play with the ball because they're in this state of fear. That's very difficult to get them over it if, they hear that tone at any point, because then it brings back that fear. You will be told that they'll hear the tone. It's not like they're going to be shocked every time, so it's only really the 1 or 2 times when they're in training. That's true, but they associate the tone with the shock, and so it's just as fear. It causes that level of fear. They don't have to be hurt in order to be emotionally hurt. Does that make sense? So if you might be really afraid of something, I don't know what that might be for you. For me, it's I don't know if it's a complete fear like that, but I really don't like spiders. I don't want to be anywhere near them. So if I have seen a spider in the shower before, I'm going to always check that shower for spiders for several months until I'm pretty sure I'm not going to see one again, and then I might forget about it. And it's the same with your dog. My dog is barking right now because I'm having a fence put in right now. So let me get her quiet just a second, and then I'll come right back. Okay, sorry about that. I just called her to me. Next time I'll do it on the film so you can see, because she's pretty good. She just comes in and quiets down. But it's hard because they're out there using a lot of machinery. Anyways, if the battery dies on the collar, some dogs will know that and they will take off. So that's another risk that you take, because you might not really know that the battery is getting low. They may have a way that the companies now probably have a way that they can tell you if that's getting low, but you do have to pay attention to that. So I used to have a Pomeranian, and my children would, they were really young at the time. My youngest was about 3, and she would just open the doors and leave them open, and she'd let the puppy out because she wanted to play with the puppy, even though she wasn't supposed to. And I mean, you can only control your kids so much, you know? And every once in a while, she would let Lily out, and Lily would get outside. Well, Lily liked to chase cars, and that was extremely dangerous. I was terrified all the time. So that's why I got the invisible fence. I thought, okay, my husband doesn't want a regular fence, and we're going to try this invisible fence. It seemed okay at the time. This was many years ago. And anyways, we put it in, and that little dog would go out there every single day and check the perimeter of that fence to see, because I guess at one point she had gotten out and she knew the battery had died. This is my dog right here. I'm sorry, I'm moving around. And so she would check every day to see if the battery died, and when it did, she left. Like, I didn't really know what she was doing till after she left, and then I started really watching her, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this dog knows. Some dogs know that. So that was an issue. You know, if the battery runs out, you could be in trouble. So there's a number of reasons that the invisible fence can be less than what you hope for when you get it. And you can still have a problem with your dog either getting out of the fence because the battery dies, or because they don't care about the shock, or you can have a problem with fear, basically because your dog, even though, yes, they're only shocked once or twice, that's okay. That's a one-time thing. And there are things in our lives you only have to have that pain once, and you don't ever forget it. You know, if you've touched the bottom of an iron before by mistake, there's probably a 99.999% chance you will never touch the bottom of that iron again intentionally, knowingly, because you know it could be hot. Even if it's turned off, you're going to think about it first before you actually touch that iron. And not to say that you'd be fearful of the iron, because you have control over it. But some dogs, even though they have the control, as you know, because they get close to that wire, you know, they know from the tone that it could be a problem. Still, they have an immense amount of fear. Here's something that adds to that fear, and one more con that I forgot to mention is that if you leave the collar on and you take your dog for a walk, they're going to get shocked. And you might think, oh, I'll never do that. Well, people forget, and I didn't forget, but my husband used to, and that was a problem for us. So what's so great about a physical fence? A physical fence is expensive, that's true. But nowadays, if you really can't afford one, you know, having one permanently installed, you can get fences that are temporary. You can go to places like Lowe's or Home Depot. I don't know if you have stores like that, but big box hardware stores will oftentimes carry pieces of fence that you can just stake into the ground yourself. And while they aren't perfect, they're better than nothing, and you can make them whatever size you want. They're still not necessarily cheap, but less expensive than a physical fence. And invisible fences aren't cheap either. They can be pretty costly because you have to bury the wire and so forth. A physical fence, I feel so safe with it. Yes, I still have to go out there and check periodically to make sure that there aren't any breaks in the fence, or if there's a storm that a tree didn't fall on it. Hold on, now I'll get Ray. Ray! Puppy, come. Ray. I think he's right outside the window. Hold on. Ray, come here. Sorry, she's here with me. I just wanted you to see that it isn't a huge problem, but I'm happy when my dog barks because I want to know when someone's here, especially someone who is a stranger, and the contractors are strangers. So I will show you my fence later. I just want you to know that I'm super happy in putting it in. I'm getting a split rail, which is, you know, when you have the posts and then you have 3 or 2 long pieces of rail between them. And then I have that covered with a wire that's almost see-through, but it keeps the dog in. And we use that at another house, and it worked really well. So I love a physical fence. I can open the gate, open the door, let my dog in, and I don't have to worry about anything coming in or her leaving. And it actually adds beauty to the landscape, if you ask me. It isn't changing our view. So I think it's actually pretty, and you can grow some pretty plants on it if you want to. But think about it. There's no fear involved. A physical fence, in my opinion, and in the opinion of, for example, the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior, the Pet Professional Guild, and many others, it's what we recommend. Won't cause fear. If you have any questions about fences, just let me know below, and please leave a comment if you like this video. Also, subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. This is Dr. Carolyn Lincoln with Play to Behave. Learn more about me at playtobehave.com.